Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of Water Innovation Europe, a water smart society for global leadership. My name is Dirk Krol and I'm the Executive Director of Water Europe. We had a great start yesterday with an opening by Water Europe President Thomas Michel, a keynote by European Commissioner Symbiosis, and a great panel discussion on Water is Also Your Business with Adina Braha-Honshu from Microsoft, Mauro Scalia from Eurotex, moderated by Joachim De Genio from DG Environment. Some key messages from yesterday's meeting were that European companies are still underestimating the water risks. It's up to us to engage them and involve them in our efforts to build a European water smart society. Also, sustainability is not addressed in the same way everywhere in the world. We need to advocate for global harmonized policy rules. To make the transition to a green and digital Europe a success, we need strong collaboration and partnerships across sectors. In particular, data sharing across different sectors can lead to meaningful and actionable insights. This decade, we need to create these systems that will be the backbone of a water positive future after 2030 and beyond. Also, water data are often fragmented and in silos. Digitalizing the water sector and making sure it's credible, transparent, and useful both to policymakers and to industries is a very important step to support other sectors. Today, we're going to continue with first the opening speech by David Martin, Water Europe Vice President for Advocacy and Vice President Public Affairs EU and Country Manager for France and Belgium for Ecolab. Then we continue with a keynote by Vahap Sezer, Mayor of Mersin Metropolitan Municipality in Turkey, on behalf of the Republican Party. He will speak to us about a reuse of treated wastewater in industry and agricultural irrigation, on wastewater and energy management without automation systems, and about smart cities. Then we will continue by signing a joint declaration between Mayor Sezer and Water Europe President Thomas Michel on the collaboration between Mersin Metropolitan Municipality and Water Europe to achieve a water smart society. And we will conclude the morning with a panel discussion on water smart industries for EU competitiveness and autonomy. Yeah. So once again, I think I foresee a great session this morning, and I would like to pass the floor now to Water Europe Vice President for Advocacy, David Martin. David, please take the floor.
Thank you, Dirk. Can you hear me? Perfect. Good morning, everyone, and I'm very happy to be with you today digitally. And I hope as well that the day yesterday was of interest to many of you. I think there were some very interesting insights, especially in the workshop that took place, I found, with specifically addressing digital and textiles. So hopefully today is going to be interesting as well. So maybe let me start my keynote with, I'm going to call it 3 takeaways. Firstly, the gap between demand and supply of fresh water will reach 56% by 2030. Industry plays a key role in that because it contributes to more than 50% of the total freshwater withdrawal in Europe. And then finally, and I'm using this from one of the heads of states of Hungary that had mentioned that, if climate change were a shark, water would be its teeth. Basically highlighting the fact that to achieve the Green Deal ambition, water is essential. So on those 3 points, there is some good news. And the good news is that solutions actually exist. And the Industrial Emissions Directive offers probably one of the best platforms to allow the EU to take the lead on smart and sustainable water management. So let me perhaps start with a little bit of context. I think probably many of you are quite familiar with this, but the global use of fresh water has actually doubled since the 1960s. and there is no new water. All the water we have is here. According to the World Economic Forum, at this current rate, the gap between supply and demand will be 40% by 2030. In many places, demand is already exceeding sustainable supply, and in some other places, water scarcity is already having a major impact on the economic growth of the sector. We often talk about water scarcity. Let me introduce water stress. Water stress is the balance between supply and demand. And actually, a very recent report from the World Resource Institute has indicated that that gap between demand and supply, i.e. the water stress, is not 40% anymore by 2030. It's actually reaching 56%. So it's even more critical. And I think the work that we are doing at Water Europe, the work we are doing in collaborating with all the different stakeholders is essential due to the fact that this gap is worsening. Often people think of water stress as being an issue of the South, a problem in Africa, maybe even in the Mediterranean countries like Spain, Italy, or Greece. Well, actually, it's a challenge everywhere. Belgium, and I think many of the folks that are joining the call today are dialing in from Belgium, is considered to be by the World Resource Institute one of the European countries the most at risk in terms of water shortage. Severe droughts can affect water security, even in countries that are usually seen to have ample water resources. Let me take the example of the country of 1,000 lakes, in other words, Finland, where in the southwestern part of that country in 2018, droughts occurred over that summer, and water-intensive industries, for instance, pulp and paper factories, had to stop their production. So water is everybody's business. Water stress is relevant in every country. Globally, the water abstraction is typically mainly in agriculture. 70% of the total water abstraction comes from agriculture, 20% industry, and 10%, call it communities, right? But actually, when you look at these numbers and you separate the more industrial countries versus the less industrial countries, that ratio of the industry abstraction reaches 50%, such as in Europe. So over 50% of the water abstraction is actually coming from industry, which clearly highlights that a water smart management of industrial processes is a key element to achieve this so wanted water smart society we're working on, specifically, in the context of the ongoing discussion on the Industrial Emissions Directive. And when we think of this new IED, new Industrial Emissions Directive, that's an opportunity to contribute to securing the European competitiveness, and how to do that by avoiding critical choices between production plants due to maybe misconsideration of the impact and the value of water. It is improving our environmental legacy to the future generations, given the fact I've just mentioned, and strengthen our European strategic autonomy through resource recovery of critical materials embedded in the wastewater. So really this discussion, and today is going to be, I think, of particular interest as we discuss the Industrial Emissions Directive. It's an opportunity to maybe look at 4 aspects. 1, leverage water-related standards in each breadth, in other words, in each industry sector. Set up a horizontal breadth on water efficiency. Include mandatory systems assessment for water usage in Europe, and incentivize industrial water efficiency, cascading, and reuse of water. thinking about the idea, there's an additional piece of good news around water. Water is everywhere, and water is actually another gift to provide. And water can greatly contribute to the main target of the Green Deal, which is becoming climate neutral by 2050. And that gift is the link between water and energy. 40% of the electricity bill of municipalities in Europe is allocated to pump, treat, move water. So clearly, by reducing the use of water, this allows you to reduce the energy associated to pump, treat, and move it, which in turn has a positive impact on the greenhouse gas emissions and will help to achieve Europe's climate neutrality. So that link between water and energy is an essential, let's say, pillar to help and promote water efficiency to drive our climate neutrality ambition. The second element as well is that link to digital, and we had a conversation yesterday on the link between, let's say, on digital water. And so we would strongly recommend here that there's an opportunity to deploy digital water solutions to actually foster this water energy efficiency opportunity and decarbonize for the European industry. A water smart society goes as well beyond the industrial water management. How countries allocate and manage their available water supplies will flatten or steepen this water deficit curve that I shared with you at the beginning of my keynote. So setting water withdrawal limits for industry, agriculture, and investing in measures will be essential for this water smart society. So that's why, as Water Europe, we are calling for a smart water society through our advocacy program, which I'm very happy to lead, basing our positions on 3 pillars. First, the societal responsibility. Second, the evidence, the scientific evidence behind the positions we're taking. And thirdly, the financial and economical sustainability of our position. The Water Europe has significantly enhanced its reach and advocacy program with, I would say, a great team that I'd like to thank as well today. This year, we have built 7 position papers on key water-related dossiers to achieve a water smart society, to exploit the value in water and support water reuse, develop digital water and hybrid green-gray infrastructure. We join coalitions, collaborating is key. So we join coalitions to raise awareness about the value of water. 2 coalitions that we have worked closely with this year are the EU Water Alliance and the Joint Statement to Access Sanitation. And finally, I'd like to highlight what the team achieved here as well, is contributed to stress the importance of water within the European Parliament. And we have supported the MEP Water Group in its activities, organizing great workshops with commissioners or in collaboration with UNESCO. Strengthening a water smart society requires, of course, collaboration. I think this is a word that we will hear as a theme throughout this week. And the collaboration being one of the key values of Water Europe, bringing people together, as mentioned by the Commissioner yesterday. It's a collective work that needs to mobilize the whole water ecosystem, from universities, industry, SMEs, utilities, to the NGOs and local authorities that actually play a role essential in this water smart management and therefore fighting against climate change. As we often say, in order to go green, we absolutely need to go blue. and industry is an ally in this. So let me now pass the floor to the Mayor of Mersin that will be illustrating this collaboration in another part of the geography. And water is everybody's business, as we can see, and the Mayor of Mersin will be sharing some very interesting insights on the collaboration initiatives that they are taking in Mersin in Turkey. Thank you. So I don't know if the Mayor of Mersin is with us. I see the video, and you're still on mute.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, very good. Thank you very much.
Herkese günaydın.
So good morning to all.
İyi bir toplantı olmasını umut ediyorum.
I hope this will be a nice event.
Water Europe ailesiyle bir arada olmak, Mersin Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanı olarak beni mutlu etti.
As a mayor of Mersin Metropolitan Municipality, I am quite delighted to be a part of Water Europe family.
Yaşadığımız ve yönettiğimiz şehri tanıyarak başlamak istiyorum.
I like to start with the city that we live in, manage.
Mersin, Doğu Akdeniz çanağında önemli bir Akdeniz sahil kenti.
Mersin is an important Mediterranean and coastline city on the southeast of Turkey.
Toplam yüz ölçümü 16.000 kilometre kare bir alan.
It's approximately 16,000 square kilometers of area.
1.850.000 yerli nüfus ve yaklaşık olarak da 400.000 Suriyeli sığınmacının yaşadığı bir kent.
We have 1.8 million regular residents and approximately 400,000 Syrian refugees living in Mersin.
Yani toplamda yerli nüfus ve sığınmacılarla 2.250.000 nüfusun yaşadığı önemli bir kent.
So more or less we have 2.2 million population in total, and it's a quite big number for us.
Kentimiz çok süratle gelişen bir kent.
Our city is increasing and advancing quite rapidly.
Türkiye ekonomisi içerisinde de önemli bir yere sahip.
It's an important economy in terms of Turkish economy.
Çok önemli özellikleri, dinamikleri olan bir kent.
The city has very important dynamics and features.
Birçok sektörde gelişmelerin yaşandığı bir kent.
In many sectors we are developing really fast.
Türkiye'nin en büyük limanına sahip bir sahil kenti.
Mersin is home to Turkish biggest port.
Dünyanın ilgilendiği en önemli sıcak alanlarından, çatışma alanlarından bir Orta Doğu'ya çok yakın bir coğrafya.
But it's also quite close to Middle East region where there are lots of conflicts and wars.
Orta Doğu'daki yaşanan siyasal, ekonomik ya da birçok olumlu ya da olumsuz gelişmeden etkilenen bir kent.
It affects negatively or positively of the political and economical developments in the region.
Örneğin son 10 yıldır Suriye'de yaşanan çatışmaların sonucunda 400.000 sığınmacı şu anda misafir eden bir kent.
As a result of the conflict in Syria in last decade, in last 10 years, we are home to 400,000 Syrians right now.
Bu da bize önemli ekonomik, sosyal, siyasal, yapısal sorunlar taşıyor.
It also brings quite important economical, political and social problems in the city.
Aslında Water Europe onun ilgilendiği alanda tam da sığınmacıların bugün kentimize yarattığı yapısal sorunlarla ilgilenen bir kurum.
Water Europe is in charge with the infrastructure work of the refugees that live in Mersin as well. It's one of its objectives.
Düşünün ki son 10 yılda kentinizin nüfusu yaklaşık olarak %25 oranında sürpriz bir şekilde artış gösteriyor.
Imagine that in last decade, surprisingly, your population increased 25% all of a sudden.
Oysa ki sizin merkezi yönetimden ya da devletten aldığınız yatırımlarla ilgili bütçeler, kaynaklar sizin yerli nüfusunuza göre veriliyor.
All the budgets and incomes from the central government only allow us to serve for our own people, not enough for the refugees.
İlave gelen bu misafirlerin yarattığı sorunlarla baş edebilmek için bir başınıza çabalarınız bir anlamda yeterli kalmıyor.
So in order to face the challenges of incoming refugees by yourself is not efficient enough.
Sizin de takdir ettiğiniz gibi ya da onaylayacağınız gibi temiz su şebekeleri, kanalizasyon sistemleri ve atık su arıtma tesisleri yatırımları oldukça büyük bütçeler gerektiren yatırımlar.
As you would believe and agree with me that like the clean water resources, sewage systems and the wastewater treatment needs a quite bit of capital.
Bizim bunları kendi yerel yönetimimizin ya da belediyemizin gelirleriyle ya da sular idaremizin gelirleriyle karşılama imkanımız yok.
It's impossible for us to meet with these challenges in terms of economy with our local budget and incomes of the MESCI.
Bu sebeple bizim de sizlerle biraz sonra yapacağımız protokol sonucu artık resmi olarak başlatacağımız işbirliği çok önem taşıyor.
So it's quite important following the protocol we're going to sign with you in terms of our cooperation.
Water Europe'un vizyonunu, misyonunu incelediğimde aslında bizimle ortaklaşan birçok alanın olduğunu gördüm.
When I took a look at the vision and mission of the Water Europe, we have a lot in common that I would say.
Zaten bizim de Water Europe'la işbirliğine yönelmemizin temel sebebi bu gördüğümüz tespitler ya da referanslar.
Those are the references and defines us that we found out to make in cooperation with Water Europe.
Türkiye'den Water Europe'a üye biz 4. kurum olacağız ama ilk belediye olacağız.
We will be the 4th organization or institutions from Turkey to become a member of Water Europe. However, we are the first municipality to become a member.
Umut ediyorum Türkiye'den Water Europe'a üye olan ilk belediye olarak sizlerle çok iyi işler yaparız.
I really hope that we're going to make great contribution and actually cooperation with you as the first municipality from Turkey in Water Europe.
Günümüzün en kayda değer sorunlarından bir tanesi küresel iklim değişikliği.
The global climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our day.
Bunun yarattığı olumsuzluklar, yansımalar dünyada sadece bir bölgede, bir lokasyonda olumsuzluğa sebebiyet vermiyor. Dünyanın her yeri bundan etkileniyor.
The negative effects and the reflections of global climate change is not only reflecting on one particular area but all around the globe.
Doğal olarak hem ülkem hem de şu anda belediye başkanlığı yaptığım Mersin'de ilimizde bu gelişmelerden, değişimden etkilenen kentlerin başında geliyor.
So Mersin is one of the leading cities affecting from these climate challenges.
Bizim kurumumuz yani MESCI kapsamında yaptığımız çalışmalarda bu realite ışığında çalışmalarımızı sürdürüyoruz.
We continue our work in MESCI, Mersin Water and Sewerage Administration, by taking into account of this global climate.
Çevre bizim için yaptığımız projelerde birinci sırada korunacak vazgeçilmez bir alan.
Environment projects are priority in terms of projects.
Bunun yanında suyun kullanımı, arıtmanın nihai olarak arıtma sularının tekrar tarımda ya da sanayide kullanımı gibi birçok konuda önemli çalışmalarımız var.
We have important works in terms of reusing treated wastewater in industrial and agricultural irrigation.
Kurumumuzda verdiğimiz hizmetlerde teknoloji ve dijital platformların kullanma oranını da yüksek tutma gayreti içerisindeyiz.
We are doing our best to increase using digital platforms both in municipality and our institutions.
Hedefimiz tüm belediyemizde hizmetlerin birçoğunun artık ileri teknoloji altyapısı ile verildiği bir kurum yaratmak.
We aim to create an institution and municipality where it's used global and advanced technologies.
Akıllı şehirler günümüzün çok önemli bir kavram.
Smart cities are quite important in our days.
Özellikle bizim gibi bir önemli kenti yöneten belediyeler, belediye başkanları için çok önemli bir kavram.
It's a quite important concept in terms of running municipalities such as Mersin.
Artık akıllı şehirler günümüzde bir gereklilikten ziyade zorunluluk haline geldi.
The smart cities are reality rather than necessity of our day.
Eğer kentinizi en iyi şekilde yönetmek istiyorsanız bu teknoloji altyapısını kentinize kazandırmanız gerekiyor.
You have to establish a technological infrastructure if you like to run your city smoothly.
Biz de bu bilinçle örneğin MESKİ'de ya da sular idaremizde birkaç örnek vermek istiyorum. Akıllı sayaç uygulamasını başlattık.
I like to give some examples from MESKİ. We started the smart meter technology in MESKİ.
Bu sistem bize kullanılan suyun takibinin daha sağlıklı yapılmasını sağlıyor.
It helps us to follow and track the use of water better.
Yine akıllı sulama sistemleri ile ilgili çalışmalarımız var.
We also have works on smart irrigation systems,
Bunun yanında akıllı ulaşım sistemleri,
smart transportation systems,
engelli vatandaşlarımızın ve hasta vatandaşlarımızın takibi,
the track of monitoring of persons with disabilities and the elderly people,
sokak hayvanlarının takibi.
and the following of the street animals, stray animals.
Şehrimizde tarımsal faaliyetler çok yaygın. Akıllı tarım uygulamaları ile de teknolojinin çiftçilerimiz ile buluşmasını sağlıyoruz.
With the investments of smart technologies, we also help our farmers, which is agriculture is quite a big part of Mersin economy.
Yine kentimizin tüm dünyada tanınması için mobil platformlardan erişim sağlanabilecek vr.mersin.bern.tr adresi üzerinden 360 derecelik sanal gerçeklik yöntemiyle Mersin'i izleme imkanına sahip olabilirsiniz.
We promote our city on the internet with 360 virtual reality technology via vr.mersin.bel.tr and mobile platform within the scope of the Techno Mersin project.
Yine kentimizde akıllı bisiklet uygulamalarını yaygınlaştırmaya çalışıyoruz.
We also try to popularize smart bicycle projects in our city.
Kentimiz bir üniversite kenti. 4 büyük üniversitemiz var.
We do have 4 great universities. It's the city of University Mersin.
Burada öğrencilerin yoğun yaşam alanlarının olduğu bölgelerde ve toplu taşıma araçlarımızda ücretsiz Wi-Fi'ye erişim imkanı sağlıyoruz.
We do provide free Wi-Fi services in our public transportation where our university students live intensely.
Akıllı duraklar,
Smart stops,
tarımsal tahmin ve erken uyarı sistemleri,
agricultural forecast and early warning systems,
akıllı kavşaklar gibi
smart junctions.
daha birçok alanda teknolojik altyapı çalışmalarını hayata geçirdik ve geçirmeye de devam ediyoruz.
We have implemented and continue to implement many smart solutions, as I mentioned.
MESKİ'yi otomasyon ile yönetebileceğimiz SCADA sistemi yine kuruldu ve yoğun bir şekilde onun gelişmesi için çalışmalar yapıyoruz.
We established the SCADA and the Geographical Information System, which is Central Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, which we established and we try to make it better.
Tüm içme suyu şebekesinin bağlı olduğu bu sistem içerisinde depolarımızı, terfi istasyonlarımızı, kontrol noktalarımızı, vana ve basınç odalarımızda tüm noktaları anlık olarak takip edebiliyoruz, verileri alabiliyoruz, kontrol edebiliyoruz. Geçmiş veriler üzerinde analiz etme imkanına sahip olabiliyoruz.
It is used for instant data tracking, analysis of control, past data at all points, including control points, valves and pressure rooms.
Ve sistem içerisinde oluşabilecek olumsuzluklara anında müdahale etme şansımız oluyor.
We do have a chance to actually take into action right away if there is any problem within the system.
Ayrıca bizim için çok önemli olan sistem içerisindeki kaçak kayıp oranının da azalmasında ya da ortadan kaldırılmasında çok önemli bir çalışma olarak değerlendiriyorum.
SCADA system aims to reduce potential illegal use, minimizing physical and economical loss, and protecting water resources, which is quite important for us.
Arıtılmış atık suyun endüstride ya da tarımda ya da diğer imkan bulabilen alanlarda kullanılması çok önemli.
It's very important to reuse of treated wastewater in industrial and agricultural irrigation.
Günümüzde suyun her damlası çok önemli.
Every bit and drop of water is quite important in our day.
Yaşadığımız bölge aslında su havzaları açısından son derece zengin bir havza.
We do have very rich water resources in our region where we live.
Ülke ortalamasına göre yağışların iyi olduğu bir bölge.
When taken in action to raining, it's about the average of Turkey.
Kuzeyinde yer alan, dünyanın en önemli sıra dağları olan Toroslara sırtına dayamış bu kent su kaynakları olarak da hem de kaliteli su kaynağı olarak da son derece zengin bir kent.
In terms of quality water resources, we are established on the uphills of Taurus Mountains on the northern side of the city, which is quite important in terms of the source.
Ama bu su kaynaklarını bilinçsizce tüketmeye devam ettiğimiz takdirde şu anda su zengini gibi görünen kentimiz çok kısa süre sonra su fakiri bir kent haline gelebilir.
However, if we continue to use these water resources not wise enough, we can be poor in terms of water resources. Now we look rich.
Bu sebeple bizim toplam ilimizde yer alan 23 atık su arıtma tesisimizin belirli bölümünde nihai suyun, atık suyun tekrar kullanımı için önemli çalışmalar yaptık.
We make important works in the use of 23 wastewater treatment plants in our city for fully purified and discharged to the receiving environment.
Örneğin merkezde yer alan en önemli, en büyük atık su arıtma tesisimizi eki nihai suyu yine bölgemizin en önemli bir sanayi tesisinde sanayi suyu olarak kullanma için protokol gerçekleştirdik.
We signed a protocol to use the final purified water in the industrial zone.
Yine bölgemiz aynı zamanda turizm bölgesi, tarım bölgesi, ticaret bölgesi, sanayi bölgesi, çok sektörlerin hakim olduğu bir kent olduğunu söylemiştim.
I also mentioned earlier that our region is the region of the tourism, agriculture, industry, and many others.
Bir turizm bölgemizdeki atık su arıtma tesislerimizde yine önemli bir çalışma gerçekleştirdik. Oradan elde ettiğimiz suyu peyzaj çalışmalarında, bölgenin parklarında ya da refüjlerdeki ağaçlarda, çiçeklerde kullanmak için çalışmalar yaptık ve bitirdik.
We also made a great work in the wastewater plants to use the water in the parks and the recreation areas.
Şu anda yeni hizmete aldığımız yine kentimizin merkezindeki ikinci büyük arıtma tesisimizde, ileri teknolojiyle yapılmış arıtma tesisimizde elde edilen suyun o bölge tarıma uygun olduğu için tarımsal sulamada kullanılması için gerekli çalışmaları tamamladık.
We also established and finalized our work to use in wastewater treatment facility to use the agricultural irrigation for the water.
Arıtma tesislerimizde arıtma çamurundan elektrik enerjisi üretme konusunda da değerli çalışmalarımız var.
We also have great work for the making electricity, producing electricity from the sludge.
Mevcut imkanlar dahilinde tüm çalışmalarımızı bu yöne kanalize ettik.
We are doing our best and efforts to do our works in this direction.
Ve birçok tesisimizde de arıtma çamurundan elektrik üretebiliyoruz.
So we can form electrical energy from the treatment sludge formed in our facilities.
Artık atık su arıtma tesislerinin son teknoloji, ileri teknoloji yapılmasının önemini son günlerdeki çevre felaketlerinden aldığımız dersle öğrenmiş olduk.
When we take a look at the environmental disasters around us, we now learn that advanced technology used in the treatment plants are very important and essential.
Sizler de takip ediyorsunuzdur. İstanbul'da ya da Marmara Denizi'ndeki Marmara bir iç denizdir. Oradaki, o bölgedeki yaklaşık 25 milyonun yıllardır İstanbul ve çevresindeki illerin 25 milyonluk nüfusunun bilinçli bilinçsiz atıklarının denizde boca edilmesi sonucu Marmara Denizi'nde ekosistem çöktü ve bir müsilaj sürpriziyle, hatta sürpriz de diyemeyiz, bir müsilaj felaketiyle karşı karşıya kaldı.
As you might know, we are now facing a mucilage problem in Marmara Sea, which is an inner sea of Turkey on the Aegean side. Imagine a population of 25 million like throwing all their waste into the water, and finally we are unfortunately facing the mucilage environmental crisis in Turkey.
Bu demektir ki artık bu konulara dikkat etmediğimiz takdirde birçok su havzası, denizlerimiz artık ekosistemlerinde çöküntüyle karşı karşıya kalabilir.
That means we might face quite big collapses in our seas if we don't take into account of these challenges and if we don't make the necessary measurements.
Yine yağmur hasadı konusunu da çok önemsiyoruz.
We also really give great importance to rainwater harvest.
Bu konuda evcil hayvanlarımızın barındığı büyük bir bakım merkezimizde projeyi hayata geçirdik.
We do have an animal care center where we use the rainwater harvesting.
Orada elde ettiğimiz hasat sonucu elde ettiğimiz su ile oradaki peyzaj, çevre temizliği konusunda bu sudan faydalanabiliyoruz.
So we can use this water provided from the rainwater harvesting in use of our friends in the animal care and also for the irrigation purposes.
Umut ediyorum bu kısa sunumum sırasında sizlere misyonumuzu, bu konulara bakış açımızı izah etme imkanı bulmuşumdur.
I hope I had a chance in my brief explanation in terms of our mission and vision.
Ayrıca yaşadığım ve yönettiğim bu kentin bazı özelliklerini sizlere aktarma imkanı bulmuşumdur.
I also hope that I could tell about my city where I live and run.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Biraz sonra bir seremoni olacak, bir protokol imzalanacak.
Thank you very much. I believe soon we're gonna sign the ceremony between us.
Umut ediyorum bu protokol sonrasında sizlerle yapacağımız koordineli çalışmalar çok önemli, yararlı sonuçlar verecek.
I hope following our ceremony and the protocol, our mutual cooperation will be very fruitful.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
So once again, thank you very much. If you are okay with it, we are ready to sign the protocol. Just please let us know.
Okay. Dear Mayor Vahap Seser, dear citizens of Mersin, greetings from the other side of the Mediterranean, greetings from sunny Barcelona. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your kind words and the willingness you demonstrate to collaborate with Water Europe to address water challenges for our society and economy. It is a real pleasure to welcome a city of the size, importance, and history like Mersin to Water Europe. May I invite you then now to the joint signing of the joint declaration which we have prepared, which is summarizing the objectives that we both have together.
This time, when you are
ready, when you are.
Okay, ne zaman isterseniz biz de hazırız Değerli Başkanım.
Evet, bizler de hazır.
Okay, off to go then. We are about to time. Thank you. Buyurun.
A pleasure. Okay, here.
Tamam.
Thank you so much. I hope we can meet and see each other very, very soon. Thank you.
İnşallah.
Thank you. Hopefully, and the greetings from Mersin.
Hadi inşallah tercüme edelim.
Inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Cesar and Thomas. Then we are now going on to proceed to the next item on the agenda, and that is the handover of our Water Europe Infrastructure Awards. And for that, I would like to call on Borko Radivojevic from the European Junior Water Program to take the floor and to present the winner of today. Thank you, Borko.
Thank you, Dirk. Hello and good morning, everybody. I would like to say that I'm really happy and excited to announce the Digital Award. As you said, my name is Borko Radivojevic, and I'm a hydraulic engineer from University of Niš, Serbia, and also participant at the European Junior Water Program. So, the winner of the award for innovative technologies related to all aspects of the water cycle is Bioazol, with the project Rich Water. Rich Water contributes to the sustainability of the agri-food production systems. Now, I will let the floor to the Antonia Lorenzo, who will present to you the first application and market introduction of combined wastewater treatment and reuse technology for agricultural purposes.
Thank you, Borko. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Biofuel team is very happy and honored for this award, which means a very important recognition of our daily work. At Biofuel, we have been working in the last 18 years in the development of innovative solutions for sustainable water management, especially focused on treatment, reuse, and resource recovery, with the motivation to contribute somehow to the resolution of societal challenges, especially those related to water. And Rich Water System, Rich Water Project, Fast Track to Innovation H2020 project, coordinated by Biofuel, is one important result of all this effort. Rich Water was also included in the Water Europe water-oriented Living Lab Atlas, by the way. The core of Rich Water is a membrane bioreactor, a unique technology that can change the way in which the wastewater industry operates. It's a compact, decentralized system and a single solution for urban wastewater treatment and reclamation for its use in agriculture. Rich Water delivers a constant flow of nutrient-rich reclaimed water for its use in irrigation and fertilization of crops, contributing to water and nutrient circularity. We have achieved 100% of water reuse and around 70% of the nutrients. Rich Water is also one of the 16 verified technologies in the field of water treatment and monitoring by the Environmental Technology Verification Program from the European Commission, which is a tool that helps innovative technologies to reach the market. The results of this verification process, which is performed by external certified companies, so the stakeholder, our potential clients, so farmers, irrigation community, and public administration, the performance efficiency in treating and reclaiming urban wastewater to deliver this high quality effluent, fulfilling the legal framework. When we think about the potential impacts related to Rich Water implementation, we have to point out that reclaimed water is a complementary, safe, and reliable continuous water source that contributes to turn agri-food production systems more sustainable and resilient in a context of climate change and increasing demand of food of a growing population. Rich water supports the reduction of the pressure in some European regions suffering from water scarcity and water quality problems, and the transition to this more sustainable economy. Reclaimed water for agriculture is a well-known, powerful climate change adaptation measure and truly aligned with the Green Deal and the principles of the circular economy. We see rich water as a driver for the modernization of the agricultural technology while generating quality employment in the design, manufacturing, commissioning, and also in operation and maintenance. It also contributes to rural renaissance, allowing conservation of rural environment and its ecosystem services, and contributing as well to avoid rural depopulation. Rich water promotes as well the labor integration of women, around 30% of the workforce in agriculture in Europe, as one of the main agents of change for rural innovation and entrepreneurship. Rich water allows nutrient recovery, reducing the risk of environmental problems associated to these nutrient-rich water bodies. The nutrients are assimilated by plants, which leads also to savings in chemical fertilizer. So altogether, rich water lowers the carbon footprint of this economical activity by decreasing the CO2 emissions through the treatment and reclamation, and also those linked to production, packaging, and transportation of fertilizers. To finalize, I would like to thank to all my colleagues, so at BioAzul, Rafael, Alejandro, David, all of them for the hard work done to develop the innovative rich water MBR that has brought BioAzul to a next level. And also thanks to all rich water project partners and collaborators for their contribution to this development. At BioAzul, we are even more motivated to go on working for the sustainable use of water, contributing to the preservation of natural resources and our natural capital. Thanks again, and I hope we can celebrate it soon face to face. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonia. It's always a pleasure to hand out our innovation awards to, I would say, innovative solutions that can really contribute to achieving a European water smart society. But I think it's in particularly a pleasure to be able to do this to an active Water Europe member who is constantly contributing to the work we're doing in Water Europe. So once more, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Then we're going to pass on, and I think very nicely in time, we're going to pass on to the next agenda item on today's program, which is our panel discussion on a water smart industry for EU competitiveness and autonomy. And it's my pleasure to introduce Blanca Antisar from AL Utilities. And Blanca, please take the floor and introduce your panelists for this next session.
Yeah, thank you, Dirk. Good morning, and good morning, everyone. And before I start the session, congratulations, Antonia, congratulations to BioAzul. As Dirk is saying, it's always great to see this kind of awards come in and to see the innovation and technology that you are developing. Well done. Today, I will be the moderator of this session on the water smart industry for EU competitiveness and autonomy. I'm delighted to be here, and before we start, I would like to say a few words about myself and my organization. So my name is Blanca Antisar. I'm the Consultant Director of AL Utilities, a global and independent technology and innovation consultancy company that works with over 200 water utilities around the world. I hold the Royal Academy of Engineering visiting professorship at University College London in the UK in environmental security and resilience, and I co-lead with Professor Jan Hoffman the Water Security Working Group for Water Europe. As we have seen in the introduction video, by 2030, 30% of Europe will suffer from water scarcity, forcing us to adopt now a water smart management. Water risks EU competitiveness, and a smart water management can strengthen the resilience of our economy for producing qualitative and innovative solutions. But how can water smart industries contribute to the Green Deal objectives? How can design process and industrial production change capitalize on water efficiency? What is the value of water in the Industrial Emission Directive? Or which role can have digital water to improve the agility of the EU economy? To answer some of these questions and many more, it is my pleasure to introduce the following speakers. So please, if you can turn on your cameras, we will have as speakers Annette Willems, working at the European Commission. Since 2015, she is the head of Industrial Emissions and Safety Unit in the DG ENV. And prior to that, she was head of Shared Internal Audit Unit of DG ENV and DG Climate for 5 years. Prior to joining the European Commission, she also worked for PwC. Annette holds an MBA from the Solvay Brussels School and an MBA from the Stockholm University, and a Master in Economics, Banking, and Corporate Finance from the University of Krakow. Welcome, Annette. Our next speaker will be Peter Trillingsgaard, who is the Group Vice President for Corporate Communication, Public Affairs and Sustainability Engagement at Grundfos since 2019. He previously worked for Lego Group and for the Confederation of Danish Industries. He holds a Master in Social Sciences and History from the University of Aalborg. Welcome, Peter. And Andrew Collier, currently the Digital Water Vision Leadership Team for Water Europe and the Digital Acceleration Director for the Suez Group in Paris. Prior to joining Suez, Andrew worked in various marketing and digital roles for GE Water in the United States. Prior to the acquisition by Suez, he holds an MBA from Berkeley University and an BA in Science of Earth Sciences from Cornell University. Welcome, Andrew. Please, if you could turn on your camera, it would be fantastic. So our session will follow a classic debate format that will start with an opening statement of each member of the panel, followed by a round of questions and answers. For the audience, please use the chat to ask questions to our speakers, indicating your name and organization ideally, and a speaker the question is for, and your question. Without further ado, I would like to invite our speakers to provide your opening statement. So I would like to start with Annette, please, if you can start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blanca, and good morning to all participants and my co-panelists. Thank you for your introduction and for the questions you have posed. Several of them definitely directly strike on what I will be talking about. So how water can contribute to the Green Deal objectives and what is the value of water in the Industrial Emissions Directive. So as my direct responsibilities on the environmental aspects of the industrial emissions legislation that is now under the revision, I will shortly introduce the Industrial Emissions Directive, and as this is the encompassing and already quite advanced legislation that is on the market since 2010. It regulates around 52,000 of largest agro-industrial installations in a broad range of sectors, including the energy-intensive industries, the pulp and paper, food, drinks, waste treatment, and, for example, intensive rearing of pigs or poultry. As you will see, these sectors are definitely using a lot of water as a resource. And the idea is based on the important principles, which is the integrated approach to pollution prevention and control. This means that together with emissions to air, water, and soil, it deals also with very important environmental aspects such as efficient resource use, including water, of course, and, for example, reduction of waste generation, reduction of odor emissions or noise. So this integrated approach also states that the reduction of pollution to 1 medium, for example, to water, should not be at the expense of increasing pollutions elsewhere. And moreover, the directive already integrates the life cycle analysis and life cycle thinking from the inception in that respect. And it's designed to achieve the set of goals. The objective is a high level of protection of the environment taken as a whole. And the ongoing revision of the EU measures on the industrial emissions is a major pillar of the Commission's Zero Pollution Action Plan that was adopted on 12 May this year. by the European Commission and connecting various priorities of the European Green Deal. In line with the European Green Deal commitments, we are assessing options for enhancing the IED's contributions, not only to the zero pollution ambition, but also to the goals such as circular economy, efficient use of resources, including water use and reuse. And the IED revision also does not take place in the bubble. It builds on the conclusions from the evaluation that was published last September. And this evaluation showed that although the directive has played an important role in reduction of pollution of emissions from industry, it did so especially with regard to emissions to air. However, there is room for improvement regarding emissions to water. We have also concluded that it has contributed less to driving circular economy and resources efficiency aspects. And one of the main aims of the ongoing revision is to turn the Industrial Emissions Directive into the forward-looking, modern, innovative, and promoting innovation instrument. The IED, being a directive, is not a one-size-fits-all instrument and gives member states the ultimate responsibility for its implementation on the ground via the permitting regime for all the large-scale activities covered. It also requires installations in its scope to operate in accordance with the permits based on the use of best available techniques. And these techniques are described in the so-called BAT, so best available techniques conclusions, developed via the information exchange process between member states, industry associations, environmental NGOs, and the Commission. And the proposal for a reviewed directive will be adopted in first quarter of 2022. This is our ambitious plan. And the accompanying ongoing impact assessment for the revision includes important rounds of public consultations that started last summer and will continue throughout this year. In short, improving the Industrial Emissions Directive contribution to water policies is one of top priorities in the review. And we are looking at water quality and water quantity aspects. And these include tightening pollutant emission limits and their role in the national permitting, strengthening the interaction between the Industrial Emissions Directive and the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive to better tackle industrial releases to water, establishing performance benchmarks for water efficiency and reuse, and giving a stronger and more prominent role for the IED operators' environmental management system to ensure continuous improvement of environmental performance. So thank you. This is as my introduction, and back to you, Blanca.
Thank you very much, Aneta. So now I would like to invite Peter, please, to present your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Blanca, and also thank you very much, Aneta. I think there were quite a number of things already answered in the introduction here. So thank you very much for that. I also just wanted to add that I do have a background in Brussels as well. I started my career working a couple of years in the European Parliament, and it's still very dear to my heart, and I feel home whenever I'm there. So, but thank you very much for the opportunity here to introduce our position and what we think in regard to water smart industry for Europe. So first of all, I represent the company Grundfos, and for us, this is an agenda which is really critically important. It is that because as a company with a very strong purpose, we and the knowledge and know-how that we have, we can, as it has been said here a couple of times, see that unless we change our behavior, the scenario we're looking into is quite a significant gap between freshwater supply and demand already by 2030. So to start with our conclusion, you could say that we would like to see that there is a political goal for water reuse in the Zero Pollution Action Plan as well. We believe that it's important with a very clear political message. And of course, we highly appreciate what was just said here, that the directive will be used to address some of these issues as well, but we believe that is still the conclusion of my intervention here is that we want and we hope to see more political action. So water scarcity is, as it has been said, not just a problem in developing countries. It's a growing problem in Europe as well, and already now 1/3 of Europe is suffering from water stress. And already today we have 10 million Europeans that are directly affected by water scarcity, which is also a number that is expected to grow. We, as a European company, see Europe and has always seen Europe and the EU as the vehicle to make sure that Europe is in the forefront of addressing the root causes and also make, you could say, the largest consumers much more water efficient. From a global perspective, agriculture is the largest water consumer, but in the EU, it's our industries. 50% of all our water withdrawals in the EU is consumed by industrial processes, which is more than 100 billion cubic meters of water, including the energy sector. And as it is today, we only reuse about 3% of the industrial water in the EU. We have much higher technical potential, and it's a huge opportunity for the EU to reuse much more industrial water. We believe it's between 50 and 95% opportunity for reuse. So not only do we see a huge opportunity for Europe to address its own problems and ensure that there will be sufficient drinking water, fresh drinking water for all Europeans in the future, but we also see this as a way to ensure that Europe is still the front runner. Looking at this from a broader perspective, it's not a European problem we are tackling, it's a global issue. And we believe that with the political, the mechanisms that are available in Europe and what we have seen actually proved through the Industrial Emissions Directive on other pollutants to air could be replicated also to address water. As it has already been said here, we believe it's a very strong lever and a very strong mechanism to do something about an issue by using best available techniques and standards much broader. So all in all, we believe that stronger positions is a benefit, not just for the European consumer, but also to ensure that Europe is still a front runner, but also for European businesses to actually apply the technology that we have available and use that now. I think I'll stop here and wait for questions.
Yeah, wonderful, Peter, very interesting. And I would like to invite now Andrew, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Very well.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. As Blanca mentioned in the intro, I'm here representing Water Europe as a digital water VLT leader, as well as Suez, where I'm the Director of Digital Acceleration. So when it comes to the revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive, we see the need to make a larger focus on how digital can help to achieve the objectives that are set forward. In our vision at Water Europe, we support the digitalization of the water sector as a core objective toward moving to a water smart society. This is in line with the twin objectives set forth by the European Commission to build a green and digital Europe. And you heard Dirk talk about that this morning. I see digital as an enabler for the water sector. It's something that can help deliver on the policy commitments and directives. It can help generate benefits for society, economy, and the environment. We even have seen this in hyperspeed after COVID, where the transformation around digitalization was accelerated, and we saw the benefits for organizations and society. When we talk about digital, we typically jump right to the technology. You know, it's fun to talk about big data, IoT, artificial intelligence. The application of these are in the water sector are interesting use cases that I would say are water smart or smart water technologies. And that's different than being water smart. What we tend to miss is thinking about how these smart water technologies are just one brick in a more comprehensive transformation. A real transformation, we must think beyond just technology, but also think about how are we managing data? How are we transforming our organizations to think differently? How are we upskilling people to be more capable in these new kind of digital capabilities? And how are we putting the right types of governance and policy in place to ensure trust, transparency in sharing data? At Suez, so if I put on my other cap now, we see the ambition set forth by the Green Deal and the Industrial Emissions Directive as opportunities to further our business objectives and digital transformation objectives. By bringing solutions to market that both help to reduce pollution in water and air, we can help maintain Europe's industrial competitiveness while protecting health and improving quality of life. So digital is really a cross-cutting enabler for these objectives. And like many organizations, we are investing in our digital transformation journey. It's a journey. We're trying to improve our digital maturity across our organization. And I look forward to talking about these topics, in particular, how we're using digital to make advances in industrial water efficiency as we get into the panel.
Yeah, thank you very much all for your introductory. Yeah, so now following on, just a kind reminder for the audience, we will start with the questions. So I will start the first round of questions, but please don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat, and I will also take the questions you may have for our speakers today. So my first question is going to be for Peter. And you have highlighted the lack of policy drivers and legal incentivizes in the EU, particularly in terms of industrial water reuse agenda, and in this regard, the Zero Pollution Action Plan from the Commission. While this can be seen as a challenge, what are the opportunities for the water sector with the policies coming? And what is, in your perspective, in terms of the water-related agenda over the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. It's first of all, I think I would say that having worked with Lego bricks most of my adult life, I know that a problem can have many solutions, and the solutions could all be right. So I believe there are many ways to get to where we want to go, and one thing which I think is important is that we urge the Commission and the European Parliament to support the process, you can say, to adopt powerful responses to the Zero Pollution Action Plan, to show the signal as well to the importance of industrial water efficiency. And I also believe that the window of opportunities is now, it's open now for Water Europe and for Grundfos and for others in this sector that has suggested an aspirational target of 75% reuse of water in the industry by 2040. I know it's a very high ambition, but we also believe it's actually possible, because with the techniques that are available, and digital is certainly a critically important enabler here, we from our business see return on investments as low as on 1 to 3 years. And obviously the sustainability gains as well are immediate. And we can also see that the first movers are already adapting quite ambitious strategies. We have collaborated with the Danish brewery Carlsberg and implemented water practices there together with them, where they can reuse up to 90% of their wastewater. So we know the technique is there. We know the front runners are already taking steps in this direction, and we also see some quite remarkable results from that. And secondly, we also suggest to revise the Industrial Emissions Directive. It's been mentioned a few times, so I think I'm knocking on an open door here with horizontal requirements to use best available techniques. I do really believe it's been such a powerful tool to handle water-intense industrial processes as well, such as cooling, painting, cleaning, etc., in the food and beverage industries, car industry, energy sector, etc. The directive has really proven to be extremely effective in the reduction of air pollution, and why not use some of the same mechanisms and tools going forward. So overall, very positive that the Commission and the Commissioner yesterday indicated that water efficiency and the reuse will be included in the revision of the directive. So thanks a lot for those very positive remarks and inputs.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Aneta, would you like to comment on Peter's response before
yes,
I
with pleasure.
your question? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It is a challenge, definitely, because as you know, we are covering a huge range of industries. So what is there in the text of the directive as such, we are planning to strengthen the provisions on the environmental management system. To make it a more prominent role in the directive itself, and to build, it is still work in progress, so a lot of brainstormings and intellectual work is going into it, how to picture it in the legal text so that we have something that is giving a good set of requirements, setting a proper level playing field throughout Europe on the issues of water use and reuse, and how to then tackle it in the particular BREFs. Because as you know, we are working, in order to regulate the industries, we are working under the Sevilla process with all stakeholders, where we are setting what are the key environmental issues, first of all, in the beginning of the works. And water is definitely, water use and reuse is one of the issues that is going to be put there from the start. That links again with the digital solutions, with the whole cycle of measurement, assessment of basically knowledge base. This process is always knowledge driven, data driven, and this is what we need. And this is where digitalization also comes. And this is where how the collection of the data is going to be made hopefully easier and more reliable. And then we need people from the industry, from water industries, in our technical working groups, in order to help us set the proper rules, and in order to set binding provisions for what is mostly today what we call the best available techniques associated environmental performance level. But these are not legally binding. We are also looking into how to make them legally binding as much as it is possible for various industries, and also how to relate to so-called descriptive BAT conclusions. So how to make them kind of obligatory to use in the permitting processes, because the Industrial Emissions Directive regulates two major processes. First of all, the process of permitting of the installations, giving the norms to the competent authorities and to the industries concerned, to the industrial operators about what are basically possible ways to protect the environment and human health, and the process of establishing those norms, which is very inclusive, democratic, and we are listening to the NGOs, we are listening to the industries, and also having knowledge-based, data-driven, like I said before, in order to have it really like a binding and biting rules. And another point that was very important that was mentioned, I don't remember by which speaker before, was the international aspect of this work under the Industrial Emissions Directive. We are in the Commission translating BAT conclusions in all UN languages and putting them on our websites, so the whole world can use them. And we know that this is happening. This is happening from Canada to Australia, Russia, India. We see the downloads from those countries. And also working under the OECD with the dissemination of the techniques on the best available techniques. So we are spreading the knowledge so that this philosophy is going further in the world. And of course, involvement of all stakeholders in the process of the revision is crucial, because this is where we get knowledge, we get input, and the impact where it has to come from you.
We'd be happy to join.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the audience will be, many people in the audience will also be happy to join and support Aneta with the efforts. So thank you for highlighting that point. Following you with you, Aneta, the European Green Deal sets Europe on a sustainable path in terms of climate change, biodiversity, pollution, resource efficiency, which are all interrelated. They all affect each other and they all affect water. Related to water, the EU has launched a number of initiatives. If we focus now on the Zero Pollution Action Plan, water is one of its main components, and forces reviewing the list of pollutants in ground and surface water in view of moving away from substances that endanger health in the short and longer terms. So the question is, which place is there for water in promoting industrial symbiosis? Also, how can water reuse contribute to the Green Deal objective? And is it the Industrial Emission Directive the right instrument to address water-related aspects?
So, Industrial Emissions Directive is one of the elements of the whole puzzle. There's of course the full set of the water legislation that is also now being reviewed. We are working on all strands under the revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive. First of all, we are looking at the sectors. If we can expand there, for example, mining, then the water pollution is very important. The same way we'll be looking at the water use in farming, for example, in intensive rearing of cattle. We are also looking at decarbonization, like you said. We are looking at the broad spectrum of circular economy with the use of materials and generation of waste, use of water, of course, energy efficiency. As these aspects, like you said, are all interconnected and are also very often affecting either the water scarcity, like for example, climate change and water and adaptation to climate change. So everywhere water is flowing through all the work streams that we are currently looking at. And like I already mentioned several times, we are looking at the mechanisms, how via the Industrial Emissions Directive and the related development of best available techniques, we can strengthen the impact of this legislation on making the world better. So here definitely this strengthening the narrative BATs, BET conclusions, environmental management system provisions that would typically include elements such as continuous monitoring, reporting, improvement obligations, and the involvement of the industrial operator through the process to continuously improve the processes. So we are looking at something forward-looking, something that is also including a lot of flexibility and giving us possibility of addressing many sectors with those aspects. Making the environmental performance levels binding, and as this is the gray zone, and currently it is the legally binding stages is not that clear. So here we are looking at the clarification of these issues and to ensure more homogeneous approach between the member states regarding those norms, and also addressing the chain issues more systematically. So value chain via the BREF's review processes and harnessing opportunities for industrial symbiosis at local, regional, and national levels, both within the sectors and supply chain. We are collecting and providing more information in BREFs. So I hope this is addressing this question. And moreover, we are also specifically when we are talking about the releases from industrial installations, we are especially looking at the interconnection with the revision of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive in order to tackle industrial releases to water in a more optimal manner. And at the same time, we would not forget that BAT conclusions for different sectors already include provisions concerning water efficiency and water reuse, but nevertheless, the IED review will still put pressure on establishing performance benchmarks for water reuse and water efficiency, and strengthen the role of the EMS. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for all the very detailed answer that you have provided us with. So I move on now to Andrew. So, you know, there is a key word from your introductory speech, and I like very much when you mentioned that this is a journey, yeah, because I believe that, yeah, this is a journey indeed. So, you know, going back to your organization and Suez, how is Suez contributing to the Green Deal's ambition, Andrew?
Yeah, thank you. So we see an opportunity kind of across 3 pillars to contribute to the Green Deal ambition, whether it's through water quality improvement, industrial emission efficiency, or air quality. If I focus just on kind of the industrial component of that, you know, we see, and we've heard many stats today about, you know, the need for addressing water scarcity, the increasing demands. If we try to think about where to focus, when we look at industry, 18% of total water use in Europe is represented by energy, 11% by manufacturing. If we just start to kind of focus on those industrial actors, you know, where can we find opportunities for improvement? We support, like what Aneta and Peter said, kind of a revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive that would make water efficiency and the treatment of wastewater reuse mainstream by setting stricter obligations on industrial water discharge. And I think what needs to be at the center of this is some standards around what data is shared, what data is reported, and that is what's going to really drive the improvement. You know, what gets measured gets managed. If I look at my organization, I have a difficult enough time getting different parts of our same organization to share data, okay? So if we need to get different parts of industrial actors sharing data, it needs to be driven by regulators. We need common standards, and it can have tremendous impacts, you know, for our society. I'll give you one example. You know, we are working in the power industry and we're providing advanced analytics to improve industrial operations. We have an analytic called Empower, which is used to support improvements in condensers in cooling towers. And we take real-time data from the customer assets. We look at kind of the optimal ways to keep the condenser clean. And this can lead to both energy, water savings, which is, you know, beneficial financially for the customer. If we didn't have these, you know, real-time analytics, if we didn't have standards around how to think about the asset performance, we wouldn't be able to unlock these new frontiers of savings. I mean, we've been treating these assets for decades and decades, but only now with these new approaches from data science and data analytics, are we able to kind of find new levels of savings. So as an example, in a 1200 megawatt treatment plant, a 2% increase in performance of the condenser represents 200K euro in savings. So I'd like to go back to what David said in the intro, which is, you know, we have 3 pillars that we need to think about: societal responsibility, you know, driven by scientific evidence, and something that delivers a financial or economic impact. Data is at the core, and digital is at the core of all 3 of those. You know, if we want to demonstrate societal responsibility, I think it's about sharing information in a way that's going to help reduce our impact on the environment and kind of help all actors play on a level playing field. If we want to follow scientific evidence, it needs to be documented, it needs to be followed, and that's where you know, data is key. And I just gave an example of the economic impact. I think there's a real opportunity here to unlock savings for the industry, and it should be a self-enforcing approach. So that's how we're seeing some of the opportunities, under the Green Deal, under the Emissions Directive.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And going one step ahead on your talk and the focus on this digital transformation that we are seeing in Europe and outside Europe, I would like you to expand on where do you see the industry today in terms of digital transformation maturity, and of course, if we have to narrow down a little bit the scope of this question, because we're in Europe, our focus in Europe. We would like to see also, your global perspective, because we are not isolated from the world. We work, and particularly Suez, you are an international global organization. So we work with many different stakeholders in the water sector internationally. Going back to the question, where do you see the industry today in terms of digital transformation maturity in Europe and outside Europe? Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So when I think about digital maturity, I think about kind of a hierarchy of maturity or sophistication. So the first level is really about getting connected. Can you put sensors into an industrial process, onto assets, and start to collect data? I've gone to many industrial sites, and it's a notebook in the back pocket of the field service representative on the site. How do we digitize that data capture? That's level one. The next level is really around putting visualization to that. So how can we trend that, set alarms if things go above or below a certain threshold? It's giving us some awareness of the situation on the ground. It's not yet kind of an advanced intelligence, it's just monitoring and alarms. I would say that largely across Europe, we're kind of at this level right now. We've figured out how to get connected, whether it's through on-premise systems or in the cloud. We figured out how to create nice Power BI type of dashboards to monitor and set some alarms, but we've kind of stagnated there. The next level is turning that into intelligence. So how do you go from describing the environment to predicting outcomes? So how do you take machine learning, artificial intelligence types of approaches to take that data and then predict, okay, what is the chemistry dosing that we need to apply to this asset? What is the prediction of failure for this pump? What is the time to clean for this membrane? So we need to turn that information into insight using machine learning and artificial intelligence. And the final level that I think we're all aspiring to is, with the right kind of controls in place, how do you put automation into that? So how do you create this intelligence that is opening and closing valves dynamically when it's looking at data about weather and upstream water quality changing? How is it automatically responding to the environment in a proactive way than in a reactive way? So, I think we are moving. I mentioned earlier in my intro that COVID has kind of, accelerated the adoption of some digital technologies, but I think we're still in that kind of data visualization layer. To get to the next layer, we need a couple things. One is we need to invest in building awareness around data. We need to upskill our workforce. We have great engineering talent in this water sector. We need to train them to become junior data scientists. We don't need to hire data scientists from the tech industry. We need to upskill our tremendous workforce to think differently about these opportunities. In addition, I think we need and this is kind of getting to your question about how do we compare globally. We need a centralized test bed, for these technologies. When I think about, big tech, I think about Silicon Valley. Okay, everything's kind of happening in Silicon Valley. When I think about water innovation, I quickly think about Singapore. I think about Israel. When I look at the landscape around Europe, where can I point to say this is the epicenter of water technology, of digital water for Europe? And whether it becomes a living lab, through Water Europe or a collaborative effort, I think we need to centralize that at a watershed level, show how data sharing can work between stakeholders. make those models kind of in a safe place that can then scale across Europe. But I think that's the piece that we need to solve, and perhaps, you know, through our collaboration here, we can think about how to make that a reality.
Yeah, very interesting about data sharing. You know, I'm sure that there is a lot of red alarms firing around, but also very important about upscaling. We are seeing in the water sector, as in many other industrial sectors, we are seeing that we need to train for new skills and new capabilities, and as well to bring the younger generations on board and attract them into the water sector. So thank you, Andrew. Many of you have joined us already from yesterday or on Monday. So the EC Commissioner yesterday, Virginijus Sinkevicius, mentioned about today, the fact that today more than ever, we need a Europe that restores and protects its water resources. And with the European Green Deal at the heart of European water policy, collaborative structures like Water Europe are more important than ever before. So I would like to ask this question to Peter now. What is the strategic collaboration plan of your organization to cooperate with the wider sector? And what is the value of the Water Europe platform for you to be able to achieve your goals in this collaboration plan?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much, Andrew, for a really inspiring and insightful answer to the previous question. I actually believe part of the answer lies in the way that you have described or sort of established the problem that we are trying to solve here, that it's clearly something that doesn't fall within one company or one organization. You know, for me personally, there's no question that for us that policy and legislation is a strong driver to create a sustainable pathway when it comes to reducing the water footprint. And being relatively new to this sector, I would say that Water Europe for me has been, it took me a while to sort of adjust my compass, because Water Europe, I think, provides quite a unique platform to work on, because it really represents so many different stakeholders, from, you could say, problem owners, industry, utilities, etc., to solution providers, academia, etc. So I think Water Europe actually represents quite a unique opportunity to bring all the stakeholders around, all the stakeholders from various parts of Europe into the solution here. And the way that I look at Water Europe and we do is much more of a partnership and a place to both go to be inspired and challenged and also provoked, but also to learn. And I think Andrew's introduction just now shows that, you know, the interconnectedness that is needed to actually address these issues is quite important. And what I'm looking for, and why I think that you know, collaboration is increasingly important, is that it does actually require quite a deep level of trust. Sharing data, as an example, you know, obviously we have regulation for that, but it's not something which you just do. It does actually require that you establish your partnership on quite a high level of trust, and maybe you can also establish something you can pilot and scale from, so that you don't start with trying to sort of boil the ocean, but actually build the collaboration as you are trying to solve the problems. And I also believe that there are some unique opportunities now to address the issue, as Andrew ended up with outlining, that, you know, how do we create living labs? How do we actually try this out in real life? And how can we, as an EU, ensure or experiment with different problems? Because different parts of Europe have different issues to solve, but I'm sure there are quite a number of common denominators which we need to also establish and we can use to solve the problems. So I believe that collaboration is a critical component here, and building trust through partnerships like, or platforms like Water Europe actually offers, daring to stick your neck out and daring to be sort of humble in the sense that I only know part of the problem, and I actually also only know part of the solution, but I want to contribute with what I can, I think could build sort of true thought leadership and also make Water Europe a real thought leader in this area. And I can say for our part that we are proud to have a seat at the table, and this is also where we believe that we can develop solutions from. So no questions that Water Europe is a very important platform, and I think just this small intervention here with us shows that solutions come when you dare to stick your neck out and actually also are ready to confront the problems in a collaborative manner.
Yeah, I totally agree. So Andrew, the same question over to you. In terms of the strategic collaboration plan of Suez to cooperate with the wider sector, what is the value of Water Europe platform for you to be able to achieve those goals?
Yeah, so I mean, I echo everything that Peter just said. I think we too often get, head down in our own world within the company, and this gives us an opportunity to take a step back and connect with different points of view, really different approaches to the problem, maybe different timescales when you're thinking about the solutions. Academics may be thinking a different timescale than a corporate. I think it also, it tries to bring to the forefront, where there are opportunities to influence change, whether it's through these policy directives, whether it's through Horizon Europe funding programs to try and make that simplified, because it can be quite complex. Again, I kind of come back to this notion of how do we, I think at a watershed level, prove how this works. I think that it's great to have, R&I funding programs. It's great to have kind of policy revisions. But at least the way that I've seen things work in the corporate context is you got to start with a quick win. You got to show that it's working, and then build, with your early adopters, and then kind of bring in the people slowly. And so I think that we need to, pick a top priority within the Water Europe community. And I'm biased for digital, but if it's around data sharing, and we need to establish that trust, we need to make a showcase of how that works. A collaboration between industry, municipalities, and agriculture, sharing something that is not competitive, but, should promote more innovation, should create kind of an entrepreneurial excitement, to build new services on that data. We see this starting with kind of open data initiatives, and then people get scared, so somebody needs to pave the way forward. And I think, if we can get within our membership the right people around the table to start small but think big, we can start to mobilize an important effort around that together.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it is, it is interesting to see how, for example, Aneta, before she was mentioning that, there is an effort to translate the directives and certain key documents into different languages so they become available to, not only to English speakers, or, it become available to everybody. But it is very often that we see that even while we speak the same language, even while we are all in the same region, sometimes it's so difficult to engage, collaborate, cooperate, because we all speak a different language. Speaking the same language is difficult to understand each other. So yeah, we need platforms as Water Europe, as a mechanism or tool for us to get together, and only together through collaboration we'll be able to achieve great things in Europe and beyond. So moving on this point, I would like to ask all of you the same questions and get your point of view on what is the best way forward for the key stakeholders. And I'm sure that we have in the audience, we have a diversity of different key stakeholders in the water sector to engage, particularly with the European Commission, particularly with people like Aneta, who are driving, the different tools, the different directives that we need in the water sector. So we can help shape new policies, but also to identify the gap knowledge. So also for ANETA to identify what is this gap knowledge and the research needs to improve the European competitiveness and autonomy. So I would like to start with ANETA, if that is okay.
Yes, so as for the involvement, we are, without our stakeholders, we are nothing. So we of course work under the better regulation guidance and provisions. So we first evaluated the Industrial Emissions Directive. We had lessons learned. It was also all was done in the public with the public consultations. The same was done during the impact assessment when we had the targeted stakeholder survey and open public consultations. So we have consulted with a huge amount of stakeholders from various industries, from all member states, from environmental NGOs, Commission colleagues, because we also have to ensure that there's a total cohesion with all other pieces of legislation that Industrial Emissions Directive is tapping upon. So now the targeted interviews are ongoing. Our consultants, the consortium with Trinomics and Ricardo are performing. And also this Industrial Emissions Directive is done in parallel. It's open for revision with the European Pollutant Release and Transfer Register, where we are also working on cohesion of the thresholds and coverage of the sectors that also put information in the public. This is the tool that links with what Andrew is saying. The data that we have by measurement of pollutant release and waste transfers, this is what is feeding the EPRTR database. And I invite everybody to look at the industrial emissions portal that is done by the European Environment Agency. Just a new edition is out, and there also the information about the joint information of the Industrial Emissions Directive and EPRTR are there visible, visualized. This is very important part, and going further, this data collection and data availability is so crucial for us for setting the standards in Europe and beyond. So development in this area are super important for us. That can then feed the technical working groups working, because this is a very practical approach. We open the revision of the particular sector, industrial sector. We look at all important issues, and then we design the collection of the data through questionnaires, where all our stakeholders are invited to collect this data. We are struggling sometimes with the confidential data, business information issues, which we are also trying to overcome and do all that we can with the putting the tools, signing the agreement on non-disclosure of information, etc. Because we fully realize that businesses are there, also to compete with each other. So not everything is in the open, but the Commission really makes efforts to make this data anonymized, so it's not visible from whom it is coming. And also through the tool like the Industrial Emissions Directive, that is command and control. So basically, we set the norms. The competent authorities have this Bible that are breaths, but techniques are described, but the associated emission levels are set there. And in the ideal world, they would be coming and seeing what is the potential of that particular installation to provide as a protection, as the best best curbing possibility of pollutants, of use of resources, of minimization of waste, and then further we'll be also looking how to incorporate innovation and how to make sure that this legal act is allowing quicker dissemination of innovative techniques on the market. So from the legal point of view, there's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities, and we know that the quickest change is made when things are obligatory. So, but we also have to be such to allow our businesses exist and compete on the international level. So all innovative techniques in the water protection, in the better use and reuse of water, this is all that has to feed the works of the technical working group. And this is where we get the biggest value out of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Aneta, one question about the technical working groups. Maybe it will be interesting for the audience to see how one could engage with these technical working groups, whether it is voluntary, whether you ask in open calls.
So when certain BREF is being either designed from scratch or being reviewed, the technical working group is being called to life, and this is nominated by the Industrial Emissions Article 15 Forum, where the industry associations, environmental NGOs, and of course member states per se are the members of the forum. And there are criteria to be an international organization, not to be a national industry organization, but the International Industry Association, and then there's a review by the European Commission, and then we nominate the members to the forum, and members to the forum of the Industrial Emissions Directive nominate the members of the technical working group. So then all forum members are being informed by our colleagues from the European Integrated Pollution Prevention and Control Bureau in Sevilla, from the Joint Research Center, that a certain technical working group is being called to life, and to nominate the experts to this group. And then we are getting these bodies, depending, sometimes 50, sometimes 100 people. For example, for large combustion plants, it was a very big audience, depending on the size of the industry. And then we have a kickoff meeting, and then we are working on the drafts of those documents towards the final technical working group, where the final draft is being developed.
Okay, thank you, Aneta. So we are getting closer to the end of this session, but before we do that, I would like to give the opportunity to Peter and Andrew to briefly comment on this question also, on what is the best way forward from your point of view to engage with the European Commission and all stakeholders to shape and contribute to the shaping of the policies.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. First of all, I would say that sort of seen from a helicopter perspective, I think the opportunities to engage are there. You know, it's not, you know, the tricky part is, as was Aneta also just outlined here, is how do you as a company fully understand when it's relevant that you are there and what is it that is expected from you. I think that there is an onus on the European Commission to ensure that the process is as transparent as possible, is as open as it can be, and then also to course correct as we move forward, because the information and the technology and the know-how and the expertise you're looking for will also have an impact on the solutions that you are proposing. So I think having an ongoing process where we have an opportunity to engage when it's relevant that we are there, and also to ensure that you can say it's a process where everybody also learns and that we actually inform decisions as we move forward. I think it's a critical component to keep the momentum and to keep us engaged in a process that we actually can see the results of what it is that we are doing. And then I would also just say as a last remark, working through organizations like Water Europe is also a platform, because through Water Europe, you can also ensure that there are very ambitious targets that are actually addressing the issues that we are trying to deal with, and also relatively, you can say, get quite a comprehensive view on the technology. You know, in the very rare cases, you start with a blank sheet of paper. In most cases, you do actually have a relatively solid platform to work from. As Andrew also alluded to, when you're working with digitalization, you know, there's two steps we need to take. It's really not because the technology isn't there, but it's our ability to actually understand and utilize the data that we have available. So I think that asking the right questions and ensuring that you also put pressure on organizations like Water Europe makes Water Europe and us better, and our ability to actually contribute.
Thank you, Peter. And Andrew, in a couple of minutes, please, if you want to.
Just a final thought. So I think if I return to this notion that Annette was talking about with kind of gathering the data from the stakeholders, that coordination, orchestration, I would challenge us all to think about how do we create a value proposition for the stakeholders to want to contribute to that. So it's not just an obligation, which is obviously one forcing mechanism, but that there's an interest that they can have in participating. So whether through the anonymization of data, you know, a performance benchmark for their industry, their country, or something is kind of published through the European Commission, we can turn that exercise from just a pure reporting and compliance exercise to something that's more kind of think tank oriented, to show them kind of where they rack and stack in the industry. And maybe if by creating that kind of data warehouse in a way that's open to the participants, or brings in other data, other open data sources, you can make it, you know, a resource of information that the stakeholders will want to contribute to, because hopefully it gets better with their contribution. I know easier said than done, of course, but I think when we engage with the stakeholders and we think about, you know, okay, what information are you comfortable contributing? We can turn the conversation around to say, you know, if we were to anonymize and provide these data sources in this way, or give you these type of benchmarks, you know, how would you change your decision making? And then we get into more kind of data-driven decision making, which is going to help us improve our digital maturity, as we talked about before. So, just a final word on the digital front from me. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. So thank you all speakers today. It has been my pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to all of you. And I give the word back to Dirk.
Thank you very much, Blanca. Thank you to the speakers. So with this session, we have come to the end of today's morning session of Water Innovation Europe. I mean, really the three keywords that I've retained from the discussions throughout this morning are really thought leadership and collaboration across borders and across sectors, but also really something which came, I would say, up new today is that it's about trust. Trust, particularly with regards to data sharing. And I think that's also really important, because it's really data that will allow, I would say, the water sector connect to all these other sectors, really to form the nexus, basically. I think these elements we've seen both in the intro speech of David Martin this morning. Also, I think in the keynote of Wahab Cesar from Mersin, and of course in this panel. So once again, thank you to all the contributors from this morning. I think we've had an excellent session with great discussions. Now, don't go away completely, because although the formal session of the day has ended now, this afternoon we will still have a side event organized by the EIT Food, so the European Institute for Innovation and Technology Food, which will start at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I hope to see many of you back there. And then tomorrow we will continue with a session on untapped water opportunities for urban and rural reuse of water, where we, amongst others, will have a keynote by Mayor Alexander van der Smissen of the city of Mechelen. Yeah. So with that, once more, thank you very much. I think it's been a great session this morning, and I look forward to see most of you, at least many, back tomorrow for tomorrow's edition of Water Innovation Europe 2020. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Bye. Happy day.